everyone, and it's good morning in Mumbai, but it's good evening in California. From Mumbai to California. That's right. A very, very, very healthy and a happy new year to each and every one of you all. This year was awaited by, I think, the entire world. Everyone was waiting. When would 2021 start? And yes, yeah, we are at it, right? And for us at Saturday at Subi's Power Meet, which is my talk show in collaboration with Brand New here. This is my very first episode in the new year. And what better way to start with than with a school buddy, right? Well, so without much ado, let's welcome Jeetu Patel all the way from California with a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Tahani. Such a pleasure to see you after all these years. It's been like
Yes.
over 25 years that we've actually
Yeah.
spoken.
Yeah.
I'm honored to be on your show, so thank you for having me.
It's an honor to have you, Titu. It's always so amazing to see when your school buddies are doing so well, and then you get them on your talk show, and you talk about it, and you feel elated and proud about them. That's what I'm feeling right now.
I have a
So that's
school
why.
friend who has her own talk show. That's actually cooler. So,
Well, so for all you wonderful people, you must be wondering, what does Jeetu Patel do? Well, Jeetu Patel is the SVP and GM, Security and Application Divisions at Cisco, San Jose, California. That's right. Total through techie that we are going to talk to today. So I'm going to get to know a lot more about Jeetu through our talk show and, get to know all that he's been up to. But at first, I really want to know since because you're my school buddy. I remember when we were all in school, we all used to play those lovely video games, like Fireman and Turtle Ninja, and we all used to have fun. So where did this tech bug get into you, and how has your journey been? Absolutely, because being at the applications divisions, that's what you're heading at. Cisco is quite a big thing. So let us know about it, Jeetu.
I left India in 1991. So we were in the same school together, G. Samani, and then I left India
Right.
and came to the US to do my undergrad. And while I was in my undergrad, it was actually interesting how I picked tech because the first night that I was here, I was living with my uncle, and he had a few family members that were over, and one of my uncles actually came up to me and said, "So what are you going to study?" I'm
Right.
like, "Business management or something," and he goes, "No, no, don't do that. Do computers." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And next day I enrolled into a computer science class.
Wow.
That's how it actually got to be my major. So I wish there were a little bit more of a deeper thought, but there really wasn't. It was just pure dumb luck, where someone
Yeah.
told me and someone gave me the right advice and steered me in the right way. And then before you knew it, 25 years later, it is the
Right.
sector to be in where, things change. So that's how it started. And then while I was in college, I had an angel of a professor who got me introduced to this company that was actually just starting out at the time.
Hello. Sorry.
I'm sorry, there's a little bit of a background noise for some reason. I don't know. Anyway, it was just, we were just starting, they were just starting a startup. And so I joined them as an intern.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, the original founder wanted to sell the company about 2 years into it. And I was still kind of making minimum wage, didn't really have enough money. We were eating noodles at home. And one of the guy who had founded the company said, "Hey, a bunch of us are going to buy out the original investor." So I said to him, I want in. And he goes, "Well, each one of us putting in $250,000. Do you have $250,000?" And I was making like $4 an hour at the time, so like a barely minimum wage. And so I'm like, I don't have $250,000, but I know someone who might. And so I went down there was a banker who was an Indian man, Hiren
Right.
Patel,
Yeah.
and he always had a liking for me. He always used to take care of me, and I used to
Uh,
do network and computer work. So I went to him and I said, "Hiren uncle, I need $250,000." And he looks at me. He goes, "Why do you need $250,000?" I'm like, "I want to buy this company." He's like, "What do you do when you buy the company?" I'm like, "I'm going to run it." And he goes, "Well, why don't you come by tomorrow and pick up the money?" And he loaned me $250,000, and without any collateral. It's just based on word of mouth.
Trust. Yeah.
And I ran that business for 17 years after, and so that was like my first foray into tech because it was a tech company.
Yeah.
It was in the
Well,
market research think tank, but that's how it all got started. So,
right.
and I'm still
Right.
in touch with Hiren. He's a wonderful
I
man.
think, yeah, yeah, but it's brilliant when you come across such wonderful people in your life, especially in your beginnings, at the beginning stage of your career, and that's takes you. It's such a long way. It's just so wonderful to see that. But I'm sure Jeetu, the kind of person you are, that's why Hiren Uncle took up to you,
No,
and
I think he deserves the credit, not me on that one. But I
no,
will
of
say
course,
this: the younger people in the audience is
yes,
oftentimes, and especially in India, people have this kind of, "I want to be self-made."
yeah,
There's no
yeah,
such thing as self-made. Humans are a social animal, and
yeah,
we actually, take help from each other, and that's how we actually climb on top of each other, and that's how we make progress. So don't be shy to get some help when you need it.
right, right,
Because
right.
if you get to be too prideful about taking help, you won't actually be able to make the level of progress that you can make. And then when you've done well, don't be
Right.
shy to give some help to people that need it as well,
Right.
so that you can pay it
Right.
forward.
Right. Absolutely. Very well said. Very, 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 very true. What
Yeah.
you said. So, this is what happens when you have a school buddy on the show. You completely forget the formalities. Well, I need to announce a disclaimer that the following interview, if Jeetu Patel is in his personal capacity and not as a corporate profile of Cisco. So I have done my bit. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Well, this has been interesting, Jeetu. It's great. I mean, we always have a saying that, being a Gujarati, you have the business blood in you, and you started your own venture, and you started your own business, and you got help from here and uncle, you got the money, and you were into it. I mean, that's brilliant. But it's the first, one of the first few that I've heard that somebody who's ventured out into being an entrepreneur, to being a businessman, and then started work, with a MNC, with a multinational company. So, uh, can you tell us something about that, please?
Yeah. So I ran that business for 17 years, but it was a consulting based business model. And the business
Right.
model itself was fundamentally one
Right.
without fail. And the problem with consulting businesses, the consulting businesses are great. They throw out a lot of free cash flow. There's a lot of money that can be made in it, but you don't have leverage in the business. So in order to scale, there's a direct proportionality to how many people you hire and how much it scales, but there's not a disproportionate curve. And I always wanted to learn how to scale. And so
Mm.
at one point, um, I actually got an offer selling the company to um, to another business, and my business partner at the time was kind of not completely keen on selling it, and he wanted to keep it going. I wanted to go learn scale. We tried to sell it. The transaction didn't go through, but the people who were looking to buy the company said, "Hey, we'd like to get you on board. We'd like to buy you.
Mm.
And can you come over here and run, be the chief technology officer to help us through mobile and cloud transitions that we're making?" And in tech, the one thing about tech is, the profit pools tend to shift when you move from one era to the other. So when you move from mainframe to the client
Mm.
server era, which was a big
Mhm.
move that had happened, the people that were dominant in the mainframe aren't the people that actually are the dominant players in the client server. In the same way, when you move from client server to the cloud, the people that were dominant in the client server era don't actually end up being the dominant players in the cloud. And there's new players that always come in and do a refresh. And so what happened was, as we were thinking about this, I decided that I wanted to learn how to scale, and so I decided to join over there. The most kind of memorable line for me was the person that I was interviewing with that was looking to have me come on board. We were negotiating compensation. So we're having dinner one night and we're negotiating compensation. I'm telling him, I'm like, look, Rick, his name is Rick Devanuti. He's still my coach, actually, oddly enough.
Okay.
And I said, Rick, I have 17 years of experience. I run my own business. I don't understand why you're not paying me more. And he goes, he had this really powerful line that he told me. And that's the moment I decided I want to go work for this guy. And the line he gave me was, he's like, Jeetu, you don't have 17 years of experience. You have 1 year of experience 17 times over. Why don't you come to me for 1 year and I'll give you 17 years of experience in 1 year. And immediately at that moment, I'm like, I want to work for this guy. And one of the things I'll also say to the people that are listening over here, if you're younger entrepreneurs, don't get too obsessed about the brand. Don't get obsessed about the brand you're working for. Instead, focus on the people that you're going to work for, because those are the people that are going to teach you. And so this guy was a great mentor to me. And then from there, he let me run my own business. We scaled that business, and then from there we went to we sold that business, and then one thing leads to the other, and yeah.
So that's been quite an interesting journey for you, Jeetu. It's great to know. Very, very interesting. How just that one line of the gentleman and your entire perspective changed. So that's great. It's wonderful to know. Jeetu, we a lot. I interview a lot of as when we were conversing, I was telling you, I interview a lot of kids runners, actually children who actually become entrepreneurs, from the age of 7 to 18 years. And there are lots of youngsters who always log in and, watch our talk shows. And being a part of the fourth best company in the world on the Fortune 100 list, one of the best companies to work for. And there are a whole lot of youngsters who are always wanting to, get a job at such kind of a company. So how did you feel, when you were called for an interview? What was that feeling that you got? Were you excited? Were you elated? Were you like, wow, 17 years I've put in into my business, and now I'm getting called for such a large corporate, such a large firm? What was it? What was it like? What did it feel?
Yeah, I mean, by the time this one happened, I ran my own business, then went to a company called EMC. From EMC, I went to a company called Box, and then from Box, I came to Cisco. So there's about 10 years between the time that I left my own business. But look, I think in any of this stuff, firstly, it's a team sport. So you can't give, one of the things that you have to remember in life is you're always more lucky than you're good. And people always mistake that to being, most people start confusing success with them being good rather than them being more lucky than they're good, because most people don't have the access to opportunity like most of us who've been fortunate enough to have to be able to make the most of the opportunity. So you can't forget that fact that you've been more lucky than you've been good. And that with that should come a deep level of gratitude that this is just, what a privilege it is to go out and be not just working at a great company, but solving problems that can change the shape of humanity for billions of people during your lifetime. And that's an enormous privilege to have. And I think we are spoiled in Silicon Valley to some degree, because everyone believes that the reason they're working is to change the world. And they're right, because most of them are changing the world in some way. But it's a tremendous privilege and an honor. What I will say is the most exciting part of the job is that in tech, you can't get too attached to the solutions. You only have to stay attached to the problem. Because solutions get dated very quickly.
True.
And so I think from that perspective, you have to get very excited about the thing that you're building. It's kind of like, how they do Rangoli. I always tell my team members about it. Like there's a tremendous amount of emphasis placed on perfection, but a gust of wind can blow it away.
Yes,
there's an impermanence to everything that you're doing. But the only thing that's permanent is the problem. Because the problem actually tends to be very permanent. And if you can actually stay obsessed about the problem rather than get deeply attached about the solution, you will continue to keep making the world better by improving that problem little by little. But if you get too attached to the solution, you'll create a blind spot where someone else will come in and build a better solution than you. So stay extremely paranoid and focus on the problem, and don't
Yeah.
focus and be paranoid
Okay.
about the product.
Yeah. Very, very, very well said, Jitu. Very well said. I think this is an amazing learning for everyone who's watching our show today. It's really, really amazing what you just said. So, this brings me to ask you as I was just seeing your LinkedIn profile, and I was just studying about all that you do. You have a lot of serious business responsibilities. Right from the P&L responsibilities to so a lot of your business acumen, which you must have, being an Indian, you must have got, being especially a Gujarati, it must be coming to good use.
I think in some ways, business is such a logical craft because and as long as you understand the fundamentals of business, everything else just falls in place.
Right.
And I always believe in kind of bringing it down to first principles. What are the core things that matter, and focus on those core things, and then the rest of the stuff falls in place. And I would say that the biggest advantage that I've had is the people around me gave me some very good lessons around the core foundational principles around business. And then what I've done is I've actually tried to make sure that I keep the most important things in mind. So, for example, I have this framework that I use. Maybe I'll share it over here. I wasn't planning on, but let me share it really quickly. It's a 6-part kind of, what does it take to make a great company?
Right.
And I think there's 6 things that you need to make a great company. This is, by the way, this is completely made up by Jeetu. And if you say that this is the God's honest truth, like, people would laugh at you. So just know that it comes with take it with a grain of salt. But this is what I think it is. So the most important thing in a business is timing. Great businesses at the wrong time have failed with the exact same product, right? So timing is really important, and you don't control timing. So you have to have the humility to understand that you don't control timing. Timing happens when the market's ready. You don't make the market ready. The market is ready when it's ready. So number 1 is timing. Number 2 is the market itself. Is the market big enough? And can you capture the market little by little? Because you can't go out and eat an elephant in one bite. So you have to be able to go capture the market bit by bit, but make sure that you can go out and go, kind of participate in a large market. So timing, market. The third one is team. You got to make sure that the people that you're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis that you wake up with are folks that you can trust, and folks who are going to have your back, because not everyone can do everything. And so it has to be sport, and it's more important that you learn how to pass the ball than score the point. And it's so important to have that, if you take a basketball analogy, right? And so the third one is team. You got to make sure that you have the right team. Now, by the way, a lot of people say, what's more important, team or market? Market always trumps team, because if you have a shitty market, with a great team, the market pulls you down. You have a great market with a mediocre team, the market pulls you up, right? Yeah. So market always trumps team, but so it's timing, market, team. The fourth one then is product. You got to make sure that you obsess about the product or service that you're taking to market, and keep improving the product or service. The companies that do that do really well. Look at companies like Apple. Look at companies like Google. Look at these companies have done well because they obsess about the product. They don't obsess about profits. Profits are a derived outcome. The product is a primary outcome. So you have to make sure to think about the product.
Right.
So timing, market, team, product.
Yeah.
Number 5 is brand. You got to have a great brand. One of my mentors told me a great lesson he's given me, which was, don't ever go to a company who's lost their brand mojo. Because you can fix the product, you can't resurrect a brand. Very, very few companies have resurrected a brand. Apple almost lost their brand, they got it back. Microsoft almost lost the brand, they got it back. But most people that lose the brand don't get it back. It's very, very seldom that you get it back. So number 5 is brand, and number 6 is distribution. Just because you build it doesn't mean people come. You have to get it to the hands of millions of people so that people can actually consume what you built. And the beauty about software is you build something once and you distribute it 1 billion times.
Right.
So the marginal cost of production is very low. right?
Right.
That's the beauty about software. So timing, market, team, product, brand, distribution. Timing
Mm.
trumps market, market trumps team trumps product trumps brand,
Product
brand
and
trumps
brand,
distribution.
brand
If you don't have all
distribution.
six, you don't build a great
Yeah.
company. So those are the six
Yeah.
things that I think you need to have to build a great company.
Wow, what amazing learning. So people, the guru mantra that you all need for a fantastic company is just these 6 pointers, which is pointed out by Jeetu Patel. And I think all you guys need to remember, it's just 6 points: timing, market, team, product, brand, and the last but not the least is distribution. So 6 pointers, I think, extremely important. Very well said. Thank you, Jeetu. What an amazing learning that was. I mean, today I have learned so much thanks to you. Great, great. That's honestly great. I think you would make a fantastic speaker, Jeetu. So that's wonderful. Okay, so this brings me to ask you. Uh, uh, I mean, of course, work is always there, profession is always there, but family is something which is, I think, important to every one of us, to each and every one of us. So, what is a typical day, for Jitu when Jitu comes back home, or before, or the weekend? What does Jitu do on a weekend, or what does Jitu do when he starts his day?
Yeah, so
I know you have a wonderful daughter.
I have an amazing daughter. She is going to be
Yeah,
10 years old in about 16 days, and
yeah,
very excited.
yay, yay,
Double
10
digits,
years old.
double digits. But
Yeah,
I think
double digit.
exactly. I'd say that uh, I'm not a guy who is very structured. So every day is slightly different for me. And I
Right,
don't have I don't have a routine that I fall into. My routine is not having a routine. But what
right,
has happened though during COVID,
right.
which has been some, like if you think of a silver lining in everything, it's been a tragic kind of time for a lot of people, and we've had good friends of ours who've lost their parents
Yeah,
that you and
yeah.
I both know recently. And but the thing that was a silver lining in this was I got to see my daughter every night for dinner, and I that was not the case pre-COVID because I usually get come home pretty late and she was in bed by then, and so this
Right.
was kind of a great way for us to connect back again.
Hmm.
But I would say that like the general kind of thing that I try to drive based on is
Hmm.
we've got a certain amount of time on the planet, and if we
Hmm.
can use the time to solve problems that
Hmm.
fundamentally impact the lives of billions of people,
Hmm.
that would be a tremendous privilege to be part of. And so the way that I think about my life is I've probably got another 10, 15 years more in the workforce. And, can I fundamentally alter the trajectory for billions of people? And I think
Right.
we'll be able to do it with what we're doing at Cisco, because if you think about what we do with WebEx, the if you think about opportunity, it's pretty unevenly distributed on the planet. You know this better than
Right.
Ani, but human potential is pretty evenly distributed. And so, if we can flatten the world somehow and make sure that every person, whether it's a person in the village in India or someone who is in the heart of Silicon Valley, can have access to the same level of opportunity and participate in the global economy equally, regardless of um, their socioeconomic level, regardless of their geography, regardless of their personality type of being an introvert or extrovert, any of those kind of dimensions, can they equally participate in a global economy? I think you'd leave the world a better place than when you found it. And
Right.
that's what I tend to obsess a lot about. And if I can do that by demonstration, I think
Hmm.
automatically my daughter will learn the right things and hopefully she'll apply it to her life.
Yeah, yeah. So I think very well said. I think the values we inculcate into our children, and what better than lead by example, I think when they watch your children watch their parents do something, uh, and they actually ape us doing these good things that we do. What better way than I think that would be the best way. So I quickly want to ask you, during the pandemic, I mean, there was the entire working structure change. It was all work from home. So just wanted to know, do you think working from home was more productive as compared to working from the office?
So you're asking someone who's very biased because I build video conferencing software. So to some degree, like I'm going to kind of qualify that going in. But I will say this, that there's a fundamental reconstruction that's happening of how the world and the future of work is going to evolve over the course of the next decade, 2 decades. And that's happening, that happened in 2020. That it was the largest experiment that was ever run, which was this working from home experiment. And what I believe is that it's going to even the playing field, where geography will no longer be an unfair advantage for people. And
Right.
just imagine if it didn't matter where you were, but you would have equal access to opportunity, how different this world would be. Right? And so it's not whether or not working from home is better than working from the office. The question to ask is, how do we make sure that
Mm-hmm.
geography doesn't matter?
Mm-hmm.
And if we can do that as a human race, we've
Mm-hmm.
been massively successful.
Right. Right.
And the way that we are doing it in
Hmm.
this kind of virtual world, I think in the future work is going to be hybrid. There's some people that are going to go into the office some of the time, some people
Hmm.
that will be working from home some of the time.
Yes.
But
Yes.
the central guiding principle that we're taking is working virtually on WebEx specifically. The experience should be 10x better
Mm.
if you were to work in person. Not better than a competitor or any of that sort. It should be 10x better than working in person. Now, you
Right.
might say that seems like an esoteric kind of statement. Give me
Mm.
some examples.
Mm.
And an example for that would be, imagine if you were speaking different languages. You were speaking in one language and I was receiving, I didn't speak that language. We can do real time, translation.
Translation. Yeah.
Imagine if I was deaf and I couldn't hear something.
Okay.
I could see your transcription.
Yes.
Imagine if I could record every single conversation and then make sure I can distribute it to other people, of course, with explicit permission. Now, not everyone has to attend the meeting
True.
because there might be people who can actually do it at 2x the speed in half the time at a later
Yeah.
point in time. So I think there's a fundamental set of things that we might be able to do more productively if you work
Mm-hmm.
from home and if you
Mm-hmm.
work virtual versus if you're working in person. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll never work in person. You'll always have some times when you're going to want to work in person.
Right.
What
Right.
happens, you actually go out and adjust accordingly as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I do think it's going to be a better world in the future. And I'm an optimist on this front because in tech, you have to be an optimist at some point because most ideas come across irrational that end up
Mm-hmm.
changing the world, right? And so you have to actually have a little bit of irrationality in the way that you think. But I believe that the future is going to be far, our best days ahead of us because of the fact that you'll be able to level the playing field.
Fantastic, Jitu. I mean, that was really, really well said, and uh, it's been a fantastic conversing with you, having this lovely conversation with you. I mean, you have given us such wonderful, amazing tips, especially for the young entrepreneurs, especially the six pointer that you gave us was something which is really, really going to go ahead with a whole lot of these young entrepreneurs who are listening to us and watching us, and not
Can I
only
maybe
them.
make one request to your audience?
Of course, by all
Uh,
means.
so here's what I think is really important that everyone keeps in mind as you're going through this. As you
Yeah.
build your career,
Mhm.
don't tolerate not having women in the workforce or having women be second class citizens. Don't tolerate it. And I think it's more important. Every woman already believes that. It's the men whose behavior has actually held women back.
Yeah.
What I would really, really, really urge the younger generation to do is make sure that when you're building out a team or make sure that when you're getting to be part of a team, if you don't have an even balance between gender and race and people that are underprivileged, and diversity of thought. If you don't have that, you won't build the greatest company in the world. So those six things are great, but they're not going to trump making sure that you have the right level of kind of distribution. So make sure you do that.
Super,
And I think
super.
if every young man specifically knows how to value that, you will actually be better off if there's a woman on your team, and
Yes.
not just one woman, that 50% of the people are women on your team,
Yeah,
you will
yeah,
actually have a better outcome. And
exactly.
if you don't tolerate a state when that's not the case, you
Hmm.
will have actually done a huge service to the world, because I think the world's better when women and men put their perspectives together to come up with a reimagined future.
Very, very well said. I salute you, Jeetu, for especially this last pointer which you put in. I always say, whenever I get invited for Women's Day, International Women's Day, and we celebrate it with more than 3 to 4 thousand women from the slums, and I think that's the best way to celebrate. But I always tell them that the word woman, when you spell it out, it's WOMAN. So a woman and a man are together in everything that they do. That's how God created us. God created Adam and Eve. It was not that He created them separately. Yes, right. He created Adam and Eve. So if you see, the word man is in the word woman. So we have to walk together if we want to live in a better world, if we want to have a better future, and if all of us have to work together.
So this is
So
where I love what Cisco has done. Cisco's mission statement is power and inclusive future for all. And and it's I leave your audience with that. If you're a young person, make sure that you're creating a diverse and inclusive future where everyone's ideas can actually be brought in, and don't try to get to be too much like-minded in the way that you bring people along, because that's actually going to have a very vanilla-based kind of outcome.
salute you, Jitu. I mean,
Thank you for having me.
especially your parting words, absolutely amazing for all of us. So I can't believe our time has completely flown by, and I'm actually feeling sad today because I could have gone on and on talking with you and conversing with you. Well, but as they say, all good things come to an end, for the better to come by, right? So we are going to hope that Jeetu Patel will be on our show back very soon again, when we call him in the next couple of months, right, Jeetu?
Absolutely. And Sonny, thank
Yeah.
you for everything that you do for the community. It's really, really amazing.
Not at all, not at all. It's my pleasure. So before we part, as I always say, stay safe, be positive, and to all you wonderful people out there, please do remember, if there is something worrying you, please don't keep it bottled up within you. Do go and share it with a friend you trust, your inner circle, or a family member you trust, because by keeping it bottled up, it's only going to harm your health. If you share it, you never know the problem you're facing. Someone else may be facing the same problem and you can help them, right? And it's always good to share. As they say, sharing is caring. So do that. Do that for yourself. And if you look after yourselves, you can look after your families. So please do that for yourself and for your families. On that note, thank you once again. I'm extremely proud of my school buddy, Jeetu Patel, who was here with me on my talk show that's started at Suvi's Power Meet in collaboration with Brian Yu here. Thank you so much for coming and giving us your valuable time. And more than that, the valuable, lovely tips that you gave our young entrepreneurs. It's not only for them. I think it's for all of us. And I've got some wonderful feedback which I will share with you, Chitu, soon on our WhatsApp. So, on that note, we shall say bye bye. God bless everyone. Have a fantastic Monday and the week ahead. Have a great week and God bless. Bye bye.
Thank you.